of the Grand Bay Area Neighborhood Study, where after Hillary and Barron was killed in 1995, and we were seeking the community of Grand Bay was seeking efforts to create a more peaceful Grand Bay and a more peaceful Dominica by extension. That Willa Favier and the others of the village council and the police chief at the time, Mr. Desmond Blanchard, and others invited or accepted or provided opportunity and access to us to come into Grand Bay and to work with creating a more peaceful Grand Bay. And I said to us, I was leading the team, as you know, that was my master's thesis research at Simon Fraser University in Canada. And we spent the time on the ground 6-7 months doing the research. And in January 1st of 1997, the first ever community policing program in Dominica and in some aspects of the Caribbean was implemented. So this is the 30th year anniversary of this work. We are following up on talking to some of the people we spoke to 30 years ago. Part of the program, Peaceology State, explains what Peaceology is, and it tells us about the journey, the state of Peaceology in our world. So tonight we will have one of our main guests will be Julian Packett, and Julian Packett will tell us about the work that YADAV did, Youth Against Drugs and Violence. And as we talk about the question of how has this work evolved over 30 years, if you have been doing something for 3 decades, what do you do on the anniversary of the 3rd decade? Do you just say the same things you said 30 years ago? Do you repeat the same things that were said 20 years ago? Do you rehash the things of 10 years ago? Do you think of the things of only 5 years ago or now, or talk about it? How do you prepare for the next 30 years? And I know there are some young gentlemen in the studio that will probably be here the next 30 years or maybe the next 60 years. And but I don't think any of us in the studio will be here for the next 100 years. But this effort may last for more than 100 years and beyond, as long as we're around. So if we are undertaking a journey that will outlive us, how should we posture ourselves as we take this journey? Julian Packett may never have thought about talking about being involved in YADA 30 years ago, as young as he is, and maybe one day he'll be talking about doing so 50 years. But for now, we're going to have this kind of conversation, right? So this is kind of, just to give you a kind of a broad synopsis of what we are going through tonight. And as usual, we feature one artist, and Lambi's about to give us a surprise with a little piece from Rasmo. We are celebrating Rasmo's work again this time, and we will be taking on some other artists this time, but as Rasmo, Ayub, and so on, we're going to replay some of the music because that has really helped the life of our show. We're going to take a quick musical break and to hear a song from Rasmo, and then when we come back, we're going to introduce our guests a little bit. As usual, you know, I'm going to do a little piece on the accordion and play our theme song, Know the Story of Our Piece. But again, I want to welcome you to our last show of the month of March, well, our only show in the month of March of 2026. And remind you that, of course, this is also a call-in show where you can reach us online at 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. And on our overseas line, you can reach us at 305-432-9624. And actually, that's the first time I actually saw the WhatsApp number here, 3 +767 235 3095. That is 767 235 3095. This WhatsApp number. All right, Lambie, let's hear something from Rasmo as this is going to bring us to this moment. We will be hearing this, or we can get to listen to Rasmo a little bit later. So we'll take a piece. Let's take a piece. Let's take a piece. Let's see what the surprise is this time.
Spirit of Maracanã, chief the spirit of survival. The spirit of Maracanã, freedom asking with them asking, they come back now. Have you felt the spirit of Maracanã? She rush, she talk, colorful, feel stuff, real, just feel, no bluff. Have you felt the spirit of Maracanã? She full of culture. She hot and cold. She full of color. Through her movement, she possesses she orange thoughts and focus. Nurtured as from woman breast, sis was not do the rest. Spirit of her children's protest, celebration of the harvest. Feel the spirit now, feel the spirit. 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 Have you felt the spirit of Maracanã? She's the spirit of.
Yes. A little bit of stir. I hope I didn't offend anybody dancing and shaking up for Carnival during Lent. I think it's a time where you're supposed to not be having too much bacchanal. But, I think Rasmo probably is a little bit happy that, we still remember bacchanal and Carnival even during Lent. Well, Lambi, it's all right with you? Right? So we had a little taste of Mama Carnival during Lent. I don't think we have sinned. And if any of you think we sinned and it's not an appropriate song to play during Lent, my apologies. And if you liked it, that's all good, right? We'll have another surprise from Rasmo in a little bit. But I've been speaking a little bit of a lot. So now I'm going to just ask just a brief introduction. He's going to make history and let his voice be heard for the first time here in Dominica. The very guest to my very right, I'm looking at you in the face. Can you please introduce yourself to Nature Island, the world?
Yes, hello. My name is Stefan Razio. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Chicago. I like to travel. I'm here in Dominica now after being in St. Lucia. I'm in the Caribbean for a few months. I'm working for Keith. Met him at a random bar, told him my situation, and now I'm working for him at his Peaceology Acres project, helping that come together, and meeting the community that he's in, and that's about it.
Yeah, so I don't want to say I don't want to correct you because everything you said is correct, but when he say he's working for me, some of you might think that he is working and he's getting paid and he's going to be paying his taxes here. Is that right?
No.
How much was your last paycheck?
No, there's no paycheck. What I like to do and how I like to travel in general is I like to work around the world and in exchange be given a place to stay or food. It depends on where I am, but mainly a place to stay in exchange for doing some work. and that's the current situation that I have with Keith or Dr. Peter. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
you guys
Dr.
know him.
Seja, as they know me, whichever way, whatever comes out. They call me Keith in the village. It's kind of hard to call me anything else when everybody else calls me Keith, right? That's all right. It's all right.
Right.
I know who I am. I think you know who I am as well. I mean, sometimes let's not go there. The name, the accolades don't mean much, but sometimes I say you need to say it because there's one situation I had where an Asian man refused to call me doctor while he called a white man doctor. And I told him he had to call me doctor as therapy because there were some things that he learned that people who look like me and sound like me probably should not be respected to be called doctors, even if we earn them. And I rebelled against that. And I thought it was not appropriate for a student to, it's okay for him to harbor those sentiments, but if he thought it was okay for him to address a white man as Dr. Farrell and call me Peter, that I was not going to stand for it. And so every now and then, I may tell someone, remember my title. I don't like people when people call me Mister for some reason. Like I feel old. That is a disrespect.
Yeah.
But I said, if you must use a title in a professional setting, we'll use my professional title. I mean, otherwise you call me whatever. It really doesn't matter. But I think sometimes some people don't like to call people who look like me out of the respect that we deserve. And sometimes I have as a professor, and I am a former dean. I used to be a dean of College of Arts and Sciences at North Park. And a lot of their white women, black women, Asian women, different women that students call Miss. They refuse to call the women professors doctor. And I said, no, you need to call her doctor for therapy. You need to face the fact that she earned what she earned. So, I mean, you can call me as you wish. I'm not hung up about it. But if somebody is trying to kind of disrespect the title that people earn, I sometimes say, you know what, you need to force yourself to call people by the title because you need to respect people. Doesn't matter what the titles are. So he called me, however. All right, bro.
All right. I got you.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about that because I think Peaceful Nature Isle is kind of a perfect place for this type of effort. And the other thing I said, I'm not correcting you, but the other thing I add into that we did not just meet at a bar because the next time you go to Wharton Waven, Wapo is going to say, but hey, Stefan, you didn't even tell him it was at Wapo's bar that Keith met you.
Yes, it was at Wapo's bar. Wapo is a super nice and funny character that I met initially in Wharton Waven.
Yeah.
Before meeting Keith.
Yeah, right. So I had to make sure, they go there, Wapo will be pouring our drinks and he'll tell us some jokes. We don't want the jokes to be on us. So we're gonna make sure.
Check out Wapo's bar.
Check out Wapo's bar right down the street for La Petite Paradis. We are two of the stalwarts of our sponsors. Aldi and Joan, and you stayed there as well, right? You spent some time there. Tell us a little bit about La Petite Paradis because I think people need to learn about those types of things from people who, like yourself, who have different points of views and different experiences here when you visit Peaceful Nature Isle. And I heard you're going to tell us about gangbanging in Chicago, huh? You look like a gangbanger. Are you a gangbanger?
Not exactly. Not exactly.
What does a gangbanger look like anyway?
Don't ask me. Don't ask me.
I'm trying to snatch you up. It's too early for
I
this.
know. I can tell. That was a trap. That was a trap.
You dodged that bullet, bro. You dodged it. You're pretty good. There's a shaitan guy. He can think on his feet. He can think of shit. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I really want you to sit in with us. What we do when we have guests on our show. We like other guests to mingle with the guests. So, as you're warming up here, we'll hear about your story here. But I think we want to talk to Julian Packett first because I want you to hear a little bit about the youth development and some of the things that we're talking about. And by the way, if you guys wonder, Stefan, if you guys drive by Peaceology Acres and over the last week or week and a half or something like that, you'll see a tent under the guava tree in front of Peaceology Acres. Or if you drove by Peaceology Acres now and you saw a tent under the guava tree, that's where Stefan has acted. Bro, how do you stay in the tent for that long?
I love it. That's my home. I wake up with the sunlight.
Yeah.
Puts me on a natural schedule. It's nice.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? This guy is 20 years old and is already enjoying so much in life. And I still cannot believe, Stefan, that we both have this Chicago connection. We are working on this initiative together in Chicago, in Buffalo, New York, in Dominica. And like I just met you at this random bar. By the way, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol yet. You're not 21 years old.
Right, right.
Well, we're not in the
Over
US.
here, it's okay. Over
And
here,
we
it's
met,
okay.
yeah, we met at this place, and then hopefully, hopefully we can do something on the ground in Chicago. I mean, neither of us never met each other in Chicago area, but because you'll be here. So Julian is online now. Yes, that's good. So what we're going to do, Julian is online. Julian, you're gonna tell us a bit about what happened 30 years ago, your involvement in Yadav. We're gonna do all of that. And but before you do that, Julian, listen for I'm gonna play a tune, which is by now we should probably have done so, which is the theme of our song, Know the Story for Our Peace. And that helps to invite our ancestors in with us, Julian, and you hear it online. But as soon as they come out, they know the story for our peace, and we bring our mind center. I may get back to it a little bit later on, but I just want to play a little tune of this before we bring you on. Lambi, you've never heard this version before. We played different. Julian,
Hey, Peter.
bienvenue, garçon, bienvenue. I was so happy to see you in Tong, recently. What's happening, bro?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yes, Julian. When I saw you, man, it just reminded me, and you. I mean, I don't remember how many years we saw each other in person, but you look just as young as you did 30 years ago. I don't know how you do it, but thank you for being part of what we started in 1996. In fact, since 1995 we spoke, but in 1996 when we were down on the ground doing the Grand Bay area neighborhood study, and you and the other members of Yadav who were so instrumental in being the research assistants on the ground. And Julian, I can hardly believe, and tell me if you can believe it, that it's really 30 years this year since this work started. And one of the things we said is that if you want something to last longer than you, something's going to last longer than you, how do you get things, how should you posture yourself? And one of the things we say is to get the youth involved, And it's amazing that Yadav was at the front line of this 30 years ago. So I want you to introduce yourself to our airwaves again, I'm pretty sure, and tell us about Yadav and tell us what you remember, but going back 30 years ago, what was Yadav trying to do, and the whole journey of it. Let's begin there, but begin by introducing yourself.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Let me just say a special good evening to everyone listening to Q95 at this time and this Peaceology radio podcast. I just want to tell them to stay tuned. Peter, back in 30 years ago, it does not seem like 30 years in my head because, you never stop preaching peace once you are involved in a peaceful movement. It's something that stays with you. And when we started the Adam, I believe I was very young at that age, just got married, just going to have my first baby. I was a young man, Peter. I must have been like 23, 24 years old. And then I started a movement because at the time there was a lot of struggle and tribulation, and it was the police versus Grand Bay, and the police could not come to the village, and and I believe that one of my friends got shot. We used to call him Susi Hilarion. I believe he's Hilarion Baron, I believe his name is.
Right.
And it was just looking like the whole thing was just spiraling into a chaotic community. And me as a young man thinking that I'm bringing in a family into a zone that looks almost like war with tar gas and bottle throwing and stuff. I did not like what I saw, and a few of us young people, I believe 12 of us, did not like it. And then we spoke with the late Ed Regis, who was a more senior youth than us, and he encouraged us to put the group together, and he will help us. Our first meeting was there at the youth center, and we decided that we are going to do a lot of educational activities. We are going to do a lot of campaigns. So we had a lot of placards made, and we were going to Tetmon and going to Grand Bay and having a lot of radio messages. We linked with the police. There was a group called POID, Police Youth Organization for, I can't remember exactly what the acronym was, but there was POID, and we partnered with them to do events and activities. I believe at the time Communist Commissioner Blanchard was there, and he took interest in what we were doing, invited us to come down to the police headquarters, invited us on the cruise ship, on the Coast Guard berth, and went out, we did a lot. We integrated with other youth in Dominica, and we went to anti-drug groups in Cal Reserve, Kenfield, Hadiadik, while we had the Adav, and we went to places like Grand Fond. We did quite a bit of encouraging, activities and teamwork with other groups who were involved in wanting to see their community better. We started with 12. I think we ended up with almost 50. We even went to Atlanta to attend the Pride workshop. Pride was something to do with anti-drug, anti-violence youth movement. We went to that. We went to Guyana to also participate in some youth anti-drug and parental workshops and training. I even facilitated training in Guyana. But at the time, it was a lot of struggle. And then here comes Peter with this idea of community policing, with this idea of peace, with this idea of trying to find out what is the bottom line, what is causing that anger, what is the cause of people behaving the way that they did. We were young, we didn't have a lot of understanding, but we have a level of appreciation of what we were living that we did not want. And so we were really well positioned for us to learn, assist, participate, and even host some of the group focus discussions. And Peter, if I haven't said that, thank you so much for being a part of Grand Bay and part of Grand Bay's history. And I believe that Grand Bay has become peaceful because of the journey through the research and the implementation stages that we had to go through, even to integrate the police into a community. One can say no and can say boldly that the police can walk through Grand Bay in full uniform with no harassment but love and appreciation. Peter, I thank you for your research and for your work and how it has impacted us in our community.
Yes, Julian, thank you. Well, you're welcome. And, I remember that Felix Henderson, Marcel Fontaine, Jamala, and some other person whose name probably escapes me now, told me that in fact, Pierre Charles, from Prime Minister Pierre Charles, I'm dubbed me as I have my honorary citizenship of Grand Bay. That I was with Kewana earlier on in the week. And some people, she told me, she herself sometimes thought I was from Grand Bay. Because Kewana went back 30 years too. So a lot of people sometimes think I'm from Grand Bay because they think, they have assumptions about how Grand Bay people will respond to people outside of Grand Bay. And they thought that Grand Bay people got along so well with me that I had to be from Grand Bay, because only Grand Bay people get along with. That's what somebody told me. And I was like, well, I don't know where you got that from, but that's not my experience, And then when they find out I'm not from Grand Bay, even because I lived there at some point, right? At the time when I was living in Florida Chelsea's house, some people thought so. So, but I'm from Trafalgar originally. But Julian, as you mentioned this, and you can count the numbers, But while you were there, those other YADAV members, and by the way, the POID is the police organization for youth development, right? That's what.
That's right.
And
Point.
we need to find out. I need any caller knows what's going on with POID at these times. Somebody call us if you know anything about POID now, because that was such a great effort, and it was just a seamless. And Julian, I just got memories, and I know I have my notes on this, and I think I wrote it in lessons from Grand Bay. I remember when we went to Scottshead or Soufriere. Scottshead, I think it was, when you guys overnighted there, and so I didn't know about some of the regional places and US places that you went in doing this work. But I wanted to say thanks to Glenn Barron, to Natasha Bellot, to Grail Benjamin, to
Barron.
No, I'm getting to the list. So let me say it. I'm calling the names.
Oh, you have the names.
I am calling the names as I have it written there. So again, Glenn Barron, Natasha Bellot, Grail Benjamin, Marlene Dennis, Anna Dupini, Luja Fontaine, Cleo Letham, which is so proud of her now current chair, and Nikes Letham. We had Marie-Pierre Loman Colobria. Remember? Coboria. Many times we had to practice that last name. and others, and Montex, you mentioned as well.
Yeah,
Montex. So and there were some other young persons, young people with us as well. So but Julian, I mean, some of you, maybe most of the members, had not yet even arrived at the age of 22, let alone 25, right?
Yeah, a lot of them were between the ages of, they were younger. Majority of the members were between the ages of maybe 17, 18, going down to 20. Yeah, right. Some of them were young. Yeah. Yes. My them were about 18 years, 19 years, Luja, and they were about 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, between those age groups.
Yes, and Nikez herself, because Nikez, it was before she was in Yadav, and then she became a police officer, and she actually retired. Yeah. She's retired, and maybe retired a few years, maybe close, maybe almost close to 5 years by now, so or something close to that by now. So it's amazing how that time has gone. And when I look back then, and as I look currently down, or I look sideways, and I look in our moment, and as I look ahead, I think about 16-year-olds, 17, 18, 19-year-olds that we have now, who are in 30 years going to have been part of the history of having done great things, like some of you. And I would really like, I know that, I'm not going to ask you to give me an update in everybody's life. It'd be nice to probably even have some kind of reunion to ask the same questions that some of the questions I'll ask you tonight to others, which is, what impact did your youthful involvement in Yadav make on the rest of your life over those 30 years? How did Yadav involvement impact your life?
Well, for me, I became a youth officer, a huge advocate for. We used to do this activity from the research with Willie Fevrier. You must call Willie Fevrier, who was the chairman of the Granby Village Council.
He was our last guest actually last month. He was our guest last month, yes.
All right. So we used to do our pre-carnival peace and unity rally every year for almost a decade. And it's because of that research document, we became so involved in the village council. As a matter of fact, Cleo Letham is the chairperson of the Granby Village Council.
Right.
I worked as a youth officer for over a decade. Luja, he was our PRO, and he became the news reporter on Mapping Television back in the days.
Right.
He's in the States now managing some other, institution. And Brown at the time was not a banana farmer yet. He was just a young man. He got himself involved in Charibel, contributing to culture, and we got an award for the youngest farmer in Dominica at the time. So you can understand the impact that, Yadav had. Natasha Bellot became a nurse, and she's right now, I think, heading a department in the U.S. as a nurse. She, and I think she's midwifery now, or past that stage. And majority of our members, went and what they did was still stay in touch with humanitarians, still doing that kind of work, looking out for people, assisting and helping. And we are still in touch. And when we meet each other, it's like we've never departed. Maria is coming Dominica soon. She contacted me and said, I'm coming home, make sure we meet, make sure we pull up, make sure we,
That's
so
nice.
the group here have had a tremendous impact in Granby because we helped with organizing carnival, we helped with organizing teenage pageants. We used to do skits on the social ills. At the time, it was a lot of things about teenage pregnancy and drug abuse. And so we were always doing all kinds of skit drama presentations to bring out the messages. As a matter of fact, I even went to do a course in edutainment, which is using entertainment to bring about educational
Education,
activities.
right.
And so we did that, and we were doing a lot of that, not just in Granby, but in various communities around Dominica. And it helped shape who we are. And just because I had to be the leader, just because I learned about speaking in public, and then I became a radio personality, organizing radio programs.
Right.
I remember once Bronx said that what he learned in the group, he went to sit at some regional meeting for banana farmers, and he said that when he went to the meeting, the very same thing we're doing at our meeting, that is what they were doing. He didn't realize we were doing parliamentary style parliamentary style meeting.
Right, like Robert Rules of Order and stuff.
Right, so he learned that for the group, but when he went and he realized that this is what they actually do out there, he recognized how important this is. As a matter of fact, this year he was there with his wife from Guadeloupe, Corinne Brown. But his son died last year, that's Wuloi. Majority of people know him as Wuloi. He died in a bike accident, so it was very sad for us. And Brown came down, and then he introduced me to his wife and told his wife the man that he is because of the impact of how our group taught him the things that he learned that he had never known before. And I can tell you there are quite a bit of other young persons who they were not directly involved in the group, but they would follow us, because that was the thing to do. We started tree lighting ceremonies. We did a lot of things in the community, and it's crazy.
Yes.
About it.
Yes, and one of the things I'm wondering, you can tell us a little bit about the history span. To some degree, it's pretty obvious that I didn't want to talk about the end of Yadav, because obviously Yadav will never end, because the Yadav lives and has lived in you, and will live in your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, even if the group never. The original members or a smaller group is never formulated in terms of the vibrance it had before, because it was a catalyst in and of itself, and it has morphed into a different format. But can you tell me, just for understanding historical purposes, about when, or does the group still formally exist, and if not, does it formally exist or not?
No, Yadav doesn't exist anymore, because majority of our members went out of state. That's number one. And those of us who were there, we branched out into more senior roles. I became the youth officer, so I wasn't in charge of a youth group anymore. Cleo branched out into culture. Wrong was into culture. With Tradibel, then he left and went away. Ferdy Bellot is back, but he went to St. Martin and lived his life. So a lot of people migrated. I think Una is in St. Martin. Some of them are in St. Thomas. They moved to Atlanta. So a lot of people, because of their family ties, and when their people got their green card, they had no choice, but they had to follow family. Right. And so you find the core members we dispersed. And although we are still in touch with each other, we still talk occasionally. But the group itself, because of the disbursement, we were not able to function as a group. So therefore, we just went into different areas, still carrying these values that we learned with us. So that's why Cleo now is the chairperson. Cleo went into Village Council Life because we wanted, together with teacher Willie Fevrier, wanted a youth representative on the council for Granby. So as part of Yadav, we were the most vibrant group at the time. So we asked Cleo, who was my vice president, to represent young people on the village council. She has never left up till this day.
Mm. So has there
Never.
been any type of youth group, and let's say that you guys are not still youth or we're not still young, but any youth group that has either evolved in a continuation like what Yadav did or in its own vision since Yadav?
Well, a lot of things changed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things changed. There was the Sovereign District Youth Committee. We had the Youth Center Club that kind of emerged after Yadav kind of dormant. We had Ned Packet as my Youth Center Club president. I brought him in and a group of other young people, and they continued doing some of the work youth center activities, Muzai nights and all of those other things that we used to do. They kind of took it over, and then as people grow up and they get, the family and they move on. The continuation did not go on to the last generation, this present generation.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of what happened after NEP and Youth Center Club, YCC, dissolved, some of them into the Catholic Church movement, where they had this strong Catholic Church organization. Right now, what you have now is the rebuilding of the Scout Troop and the rebuilding of the Girl Guides movement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nep's sister, who is my cousin, Merkwan, is running the Girl Guides, and she's doing well.
That's
and
good.
What I found myself doing now is organizing for young people in athletics. So I used to put together the fund for Whoop Jam. I used to put the netball tournament together, along with some of the members of Yadav that would come and help me, like Grell Benjamin and some of the other guys who are here locally. And we used to do activities. The Israel Road Race, we did it, and we coupled that with the A Funds Athletics Club, who is also the guy Wilson Packett, who is a cousin of mine. He was also president of the Youth Center Club when I brought him into social activities and stuff. He used to work at After Fans. So what we've done is kind of, restructure our activities, but pass it on to the different generations who have passed it on to the different generations and so forth.
Yeah. And what you have said, Julian, is so important for when we understand the life course of civic organizations, right? A lot of organizations are formed, and anything that begins will maybe someday end, right? Or it will morph from one state to the other. Nothing or very few things may exist from the beginning to the end in the same way that they existed, right? To throughout the entire life course, right? Except you can say God is probably the same in the beginning, the middle, and the end, and some may argue otherwise. So even while we are thinking about youth now, and we are thinking about Peaceology, and think about Peaceology as a youth and community development industry, setting up a whole industry around youth and community development, we'll ask ourselves, what should we expect? Because disappointments are functions of our expectations, right? And if we expect certain things, we are likely to get disappointed or maybe happy because we saw them. But sometimes if we expect certain things and certain things are not realistic to how things really happen, we can really set up ourselves for disappointment. So one of the expectations could be that if a group like Yodav was formed and was so vibrant, that it should be on forever. I'm not sure if that is a reasonable expectation, and sometimes we need to think about when we begin anything, we need to think about how it might end. How would we want it to end? And end could mean different things, because end could mean its formalization. The impact, we hardly know how the impact will end, because some things that happened so long ago that people thought was sick are still having impacts, and things that are in our lives now that we think some others may not even know may have great impact into the future, and things we think may have great impact in the future may not have much impact now. So I think as people listen to the story of Yadav, and as young people, and those of us that are young in different types of ways, as we think about our own life course and we think about the things that we have become a part of, that we are involved in, I would still say, Julian, that Yadav is alive. It certainly is alive in my mind. I've learned so much from being on the ground with Yadav members. There's things I do as a university professor that some of those breakaway groups and some of those involvements that we did, some of the things I tried, succeeded, and failed with doing with Yadav, I still use now with the youth that I work with, right? So I would never really speak about Yadav too much in the past, because to me the brand still lasts, the movement still lasts, and the efforts that were made, even like you say, for something like Brown to learn about the Robert Rules of Order and to see that what you were doing, assuming there was a bunch of young people around a table, is a world standard of how meetings are held. I think we ought to think of organizations like Yadav as continuing to live on in various types of ways, because your children and your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and those are coming behind, we need to think of these things as being alive in their own way. And in my mind, and as I engage the 30th anniversary of this work, I am seeing Yadav as still alive and well. And I look forward, I mean, saying alive and well, not as the meetings and the things that you're having, but the spirit of it and how it continues to live and feed into building the quality of your lives. Does that make sense to you, or do you have a different point of view?
No, it makes sense, Peter, because the thing is, with the work that we did, it gave us a certain level of respect in the community, and it has never stopped. I mean, I used to be known as Yaka, which is my Yad community name,
Right.
and in when we became Yadav, then everybody was Mr. Packet.
Right. They still
And
call
that
it Mr.
name
P,
just
right?
carried through. And I could never understand why they were calling me Mr. Packet.
Yeah.
But it's because of the type of activities, how we carried ourselves, what we did in the community, it brought that level of respect to every one of us.
Right.
And therefore, people just, it raised the bar as to how people would relate to us. But I never felt I was a Mr. Packet. I always saw myself as the, young Yaka. So it never left us. And people still look forward. There are young people, last week, 12 young people came to me and they want to formulate an organization. And I'm meeting with them. And in 2 weeks, it has grown to 55 people. I'm meeting them on the 1st of April to have a meeting with them to tell them about parliamentary style meetings and stuff. So that might be another Yadav growing up under a different name with a different focus, or maybe with some of the same focus that we used to do back in the days. So they asked me to help them coordinate the activities.
And
So
by the way,
there you go again,
if they could take more help, I'll volunteer if the time aligns, and depends on where you will talk offline about this. But I'll be very much happy to meet with them, with you as well. And if there's anything that I can help with, I can help them with in terms of formulating their organization, and even anything that I can say in those over those 30 years, the groups that I've seen succeeded in different kinds of ways. And if there's any way I can be a resource, I'll be happy to join you guys on the table. Let me know about that.
Of course, Peter. I appreciate and I welcome this with an open heart, of course. You know that.
And you took us into the next chapter, which was really me asking you, what kind of advice do you have for future groups, who are seeking to do so. And it seems like you already turned into this chapter. So I guess we'll continue to enter the pages since we are already into the chapter. As you think about those 30 years of experience, and this is just 30 years that I met you, right? So you guys had started before I met you. So 30 plus years of experience, the good, the good, the bad, the ugly, the successes, the triumphs, the tribulations, and so on. What type of summary advice or guidance you have for young people who are now maybe budding in the age that you were, somewhere between 15 and before 20, thinking about what can we do now? Are we too small to make a difference in our world? Is there anything that we can have an impact that 3-4 decades later on, people could look back, or we can look back and say we did well? What type of advice or guidance would you give to such people, young people?
Well, Peter, first of all, even before I go addressing young people, I want to address us adults.
Okay.
I think, and that is just my opinion, I think we, in various communities, I don't know if I call it constituency levels or district levels, we need to have a strong parenting organization that can help guide our young people. We don't have that. Maybe some churches may have it, but I think on a community level, we don't. Like, for example, Catholics, Protestants, whoever, all the pastors, priests, churches, we the people who think or who believe that we know better and that we can be of good resource should come together and say, okay, let's look at our communities or our district or our constituency as adults. How do we as adults want to help direct our young people? Because recently there has been a lot of young men shooting each other. I mean, I do really want to say that, but it brings me back down to the other days when we had violence, when nobody wanted to come to Granby, when everybody saw Granby as a place of terror. And now we are looking at various areas in Dominica now with gun shooting and killing young people, young men that we need in the labor force, young men that we need to help raise families. Do they know better? How can we adults, reach out and form groups in our communities, guide them, help them coordinate activities, give them some direction and knowledge that they lack, so they too can take those kinds of informed decisions of peace and communication and conflict resolution and understanding. So before I even reach out to the young people and tell them, hey, you should or shouldn't, I want to reach out to us adults and ask us, how much are we giving back? How do we give back to ensure that we provide that guideline for our young people to follow? And I'm not sure we are doing very good in that respect, to be honest. So that would be my first battle. Now, the second battle is I want to call on young people. There are positive examples among you. Very, very positive young people. Look at them. I'm not asking you to be like them. What I'm asking you to is to look at yourself and ask yourself, how can I be a better person? What are some of the activities I should get involved in to make me a better person? Now, somebody can dissect that and come up with a number of questions. Do they know what it is to be a better person? Who has taught them? Who guides them? How is it? Is their home functional? Is their home like my home where I had my mom and my dad? There are so many things that you can think about when it comes to a sociologist's point of view, just to examine what happens in society and how it has impacted them. So I call on adults. Let's see if we can make more things happen so they can have a cultural identity instead of learning what they see on TV and bringing it back into the community.
Was there a third one, or that is the value track you spoke of the youth and you spoke adults and the youth? So it sounds to me like you've gone across the gamut and provided some solid guidance there. But was there anything else you'd like to add in terms of thinking about youth development now and into the future?
Well, Peter, more than anything else in the world, we're looking at technology, we're looking at economics. A house that is not making money is vulnerable. Very vulnerable. We need to, even in our communities, in our local entities, to look at how can we make our communities economically viable. What are the activities that we want to promote? What are the activities that we want to see happen? Do we have, like, for example, I spoke to Cleo and Reynolds, Alcindor, jump in and grab it. And every Sunday we have some social activities. Dobby knows, and it's for everybody, mother, father, children. People come and socialize at the Geneva Plainfield every Sunday. People look forward to it because it's a time to come and meet. It doesn't matter what church you go to, doesn't matter what political spectrum you lie on. We are all together. That is what community building is about. Irrespective of our political differences, we come together every Sunday on the Geneva Plainfield. We eat some barbecue, some people cook food and eat free food, but it works. You understand where I'm from? And it's just one aspect of our development that we have to look at when it comes to looking at our society and thinking of what we can do to be together. And it does not have to start, it doesn't have to be just Grand Bay. It could be anywhere else across Dominica.
Yeah, about what time?
On Sundays.
What time or what hours? Because I may try to see if I could make it to Grand Bay. I have to spend some more time on the ground there because I'm following up with for the anniversary and visiting. Visit
Sundays. Yeah, every Sundays we include sports with recreation, music, dominoes, and we have people dancing, enjoying themselves for a few drinks here and there, barbecue, and people come out in large numbers. We start at around at 12:30, 2 o'clock.
Okay.
It goes up until around 9. So,
Okay. Well,
people
I'll
really turn
try.
out. Now,
Yeah.
Sunday gone, it place was really a lot of people turned out. And Granburyans are now starting to think of this as our own. Thinking like, it's like our thing. And, there is no political biasness. All of us are together in one. I want to see that across Dominica.
That's good. Well, that's so important, because one of the things that, as I speak to people about the 30th anniversary of this type of work, and people, it seems that there's a common voice that no community in Dominica is perfect, but the advance that Granby has made and the effort that Granby has made in succeeding to create a more peaceful Granby is pretty clear. I mean, again, the place nowhere is perfect, and there's still work to be done. But it seems that there's a general consensus that there were some aspects of how people felt about Granby in the past in terms of negative emotions, people that lived there and people outside of Granby, that some of this thing is in the past. Again, it's not to say that there are no problems at all, but while there are still issues, there are certainly movements and pockets of people who are making things to continue that peaceful, vibrant Granby. And some of that is so organic. Like, for example, when we talk about Sakis, I remember back then, we were, the history of Granby Carnival and activities around Carnival, are not necessarily the same history we see these days. And one of the changes was 30 years ago when we were down there. I remember talking to the members of Sakis and asking, well, how do you contribute, to a more peaceful Granby? The same thing like the guys in Block 44 with Sparrow, Jeffi, La Chichi, Manchild, and those guys. When G-Tech, came into effort recently, there's some people that do not want to work directly with police, but then they have the same goal that the police have, which is more of a more peaceful community. And one of the things that I remember Sakis was doing, and one of the members told me, is that whenever people started to misbehave in the band, they would actually use the band to control the emotions, to control the drama.
No. It still happens, Peter. Even if there is any fighting, if there is any roughness and they don't like it, the carnival stops. It still happens. All this year it happened again. This year some guy was trying to get unruly. The people pull him aside. Saki said, if that continues, we stop.
Yes.
And the people have to behave themselves.
And I remember the guys saying this, and I mean, they're not just saying it just something that happened, but I'm not saying that the band's always paid for the violence. But I remember the member telling me, I don't remember, I have to look to my notes to see who it was, telling me that one of the ways they could contribute is to conspicuously do that. And I remember maybe 2 years ago when I was following Triple K, around the carnival, and right around Whitchurch there, some people were misbehaving, and the band stopped. I see Signal Band does the same thing, and some other bands, maybe every band does it now. But I remember that because I've seen Bacchanal where we had blood and music playing together, flowing together, and it was really clear to me that that Sakis was making a point at that time, saying, well, this is how we can contribute, or part of how we can contribute to more peaceful Granby, because the Bacchanal, the carnival, the culture that we're trying to uphold is not that supports violence. So if violence happens or begins to happen, not just violence in action and have to see blood and fights and gun bullets and knives, but even just the type of behavior. I'm not just talking about people having a good background and jumping around, but people being unruly. And it was to me, that really was an organic way that people can contribute to a more peaceful community in ways that are directly related to their domains, and that's what you did with Yadav, directly related to your domain. And that's what, the former PAL rep, and I mean, I remember Ed, there in the community in center, when I had my office there, how many hours Ed Regis spent with me, guiding me, taking me across Granby the same way that Jeff I did and others did. So I know, can you believe it already? We're already at the top of the hour. We're already heading down into the second hour. And I really thank you for spending that time with me. I do not want to burn your credits. I hope the call is not costing you anything. I hope you're calling us on WhatsApp or somewhere where we call, because I would really like you to hang with us if you don't mind. basically what I do is that I'm on the second half or second in a quarter, one of the quarters, whatever. Whenever I have another guest lead, I like for another guest to participate. So I'm actually going to actually invite. I didn't tell him that, and I'll give him a couple seconds to think about it. But if there are any questions that we have two guests in the room with us. We have a young 18-year-old and a young 20-year-old, one from Chicago, one from Dominica, and here in there with them. So if there are any questions that Sheldon, if you have any questions, I haven't heard Mr. Packett and what he said, and also Stefan, if you have any questions for Mr. Packett, I would like you to think about that because you're young people, right? You are the age that he and most of the members were 30 years ago doing this type of work, and you're here in studio with me with the efforts that we are making in Trafalgar and the effort we're making in the Rosa Valley and elsewhere. So as anything that came to mind that you want to ask him, just come up to the mic, or any comment you want to make, just come to the mic. And as a young person, let your voice be heard. But any thoughts? No. So what do you think about just people be your age, 30 years ago, just coming together and saying, we don't like young Dominicans like you're from Trafalgar, they're from Gambia. We don't like what's going on. And we are going to take charge among ourselves and form an organization ourselves to make an impact. Do you think you can think of young people your age now that are capable of doing something like that?
Yeah, man, that many people my age that would come together to do something like that.
Right. And if you were to do this in let's say you in Trafalgar now, right? We're in Granby, and you were to think about if you were to be like a Julian Packett and say, there's something I don't like, whatever it is that I don't like, or there's something I like, I want to see go on, or something I don't like that I want to see stop. If you were to bring young people around something that you want to see last for a while and to be good for your community, what type of cause would you like to go after? What would you like to see change? What would you like to improve? What would you like to see maintain at this time? What would be the biggest concern that you would like to build for young people on this time? Whether that relates to work, whether that relates to play, whether that's education, whether it's to industry, what type of challenge do you see now that call young people to help for a better world?
I mean, we already have an organization at Peaceology Acres already.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, what I was doing 40 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing it right now at Peaceology Acres.
I was hoping that you didn't realize that. He's a smart guy, right? Julian, I was hoping you didn't realize, right? Because there's hardly anything you can do now, Julian, that doesn't tie into Yadav, right? Because, like I said, Yadav is alive and well. And to Sheldon's point, because even the other day I asked him, I said, Sheldon, do you guys want to put a youth group together? And it was kind of rhetorical because, we already have a group, we don't call. I mean, there's with Gloria Walsh, Youth for Success, we have this football organization that already exists, working in Silver Lake and so on. But when we're in Trafalgar, I mean, the guys, we don't have formal meetings, but we have members that come every day, right? So every day of the week, we have 20 kids, 15 kids, 12 kids, whatever, that are showing up there. And one of the things that, Julian, one of your family members, Ninka, right? Louise Packett, Ninka, that many people are familiar with. She and Willie Favrier were on this radio station with us the last time we had a show. And I asked Willie, what should we do if we want an organization, an effort to last beyond us? And he said, we need to involve the youth. So I said to Ninka, and Julian, you tell me what you think about that. And especially knowing Ninka, but knowing how someone like Ninka, how people may or may not want to listen to what she has to say because, some people may agree or not agree or not like her lifestyle. So, but there's value in all kinds of ways. So when we asked Ninka, well, how do we get youth involved? Ninka basically said the way to get youth involved, to keep youth involved, is to do something that brings economic value to the youth. She said the kids have to make some money too, basically because they have their own needs. And as they're building, they're looking to fulfill their needs. They have some help at home, but some have more, some have less. So when we get youth involved, it's just a matter of bringing them to play and just bring them to hang out. But we need to have something that's economic development for youth participation if we expect youth involvement to be sustainable. What are your thoughts about that, Julian?
Well, Peter, everybody has something to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
When I started the Adav, I used to. The impossible thing is I used to take advice from the para, I mean, those we call para, those drug addicts.
Right.
They are not bad people. They just have bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter who you are, what challenges you have, you remain true to what you want to see change. And as long as the change is something great, something good for your community, you stick to it. When I started Yadav back in 1995, well, they told me I was mad. Or you can want to fight against drugs and violence. That's what Yadav was. Youth against drugs and violence in Granby. And they say, are you mad, are you brave? And we go on Block 44, which is our intense block at the time. I call it intense, I won't call it another way. And, so young lady, young man, don't give up. You must find one or two people who will join you, and you do it. You do afterwards, somebody will recognize that what you've been doing that makes sense, and they will become a part of it. We started with 12, and we became 50 strong.
I understand that, Julian, but I want you to answer more specifically the question I'm asking, if you don't mind. The advice, the suggestion that Ninka made is that to involve and to sustain youth, we need to find an economic engine. We need to find economic value, ways that young people, not to say it's all about making money, but a very important new approach to getting and continuing youth involvement is to have activities that allow youth to develop financial intelligence and to start building a life. They're going to be dealers because they're going to get things, and sell things. They're going to, so they could be dealers of hope, they could be dealers of dope. So the idea, so what I'm asking specifically is what value do you give? What are your thoughts about Dinka's idea that if we have to get and sustain youth involvement, we need to find economic ways of having them involved? That's what I want you to answer specifically, please.
Oh, okay, Peter. Thank you very much for making that clear. Well, in this era of our life compared to back then in 30 years gone by, it was different. Economically, most of us had little jobs. We would do barber job, go and clean and weed and paint and raise funds for ourselves. We would have things like barbecue, and the community would support it, and then we raise funds for ourselves. So we used to do those odd little things, and it was good for us at the time. But like right now, you would want to have initiatives that can generate some serious income. That's why if you had listened to me earlier on, I did mention some things about that community. We have to get our community to become economically viable.
You said that, yes, you did.
Yes. So when I brought this in, this is the reality of our young people now. If there is no money in it, some of them just don't want to be part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what swayed, our young people from our age back then and now to say, well, if there's no money, I'm not in it. I mean, I could come up with a few suggestions that I think that may or may not be right, but that is for different discussion. But in truth and in fact, we need economic activities in the community. We need young people to come up. That's why I was on the board of DYBT. I don't know if young people know about the Dominica Youth Business Trust. Even with your youth groups, you can contact DYBT and they can come and do training on entrepreneurship development. And you can come up with ideas in your group or with just your individuals within the group can decide that or you want to get trained. And there are funds made available in the banks and credit union that you can tap into. I mean, you have to pay back the loan, but there's a guarantee system that you don't have to put your land paper, and the government makes that possible for young people through the Dominica Youth Business Trust program.
Nice.
So there are avenues that exist now, which when we were Adav, that wasn't existent. That's why Brown had to go into banana farming because his father left the farm and he went into it to sustain himself. And then we used to collect what we call fees. So at every meeting, we would collect fees to generate funds for the groups, or when we have activities that they have something to tap on. So economic activities in group life is essential.
So you see that as
It is
value.
more so than back 30 days ago.
So thank you, because in fact, one thing I said that actually made an impact on my mind, and in fact, even the young guys at Peaceology, because that Sheldon is talking about, even then, I mean, sometimes we go around the ride the ATVs, they help me to maybe clean up a little bit, and they wash the bikes after we run them in the mud and things like that. And actually, I give them a little change here and there, because, and every time I probably give them some money, they go right to go buy something to eat, or they spend, they find a way to divvy about themselves or get something they want, So you think that, so the needs are there. And I remember myself making 50 cents, 75 cents, washing Mr. Ashton's van, things like that. And for a young person, you get some kind of value in it. And so that really made an impact on me as I'm involved in young people, and continue to be involved, that we need to bring industry around that. Sheldon, Stefan, what do you guys think about that? About the value, if we have to get young people involved and keep them involved? Not to say everything ought to be about money, but a very important thing to consider is the fact that they too need to learn how to make legal funds, and learn how to make it, how to manage it, how to keep it, how to spend it. And they may have their own business geniuses, their own business genius components that we may need to explore. So a new phase of really youth engagement to be based on some sort of economic engine to help create economic intelligence and efficacy among them. What do you guys think about that? Stefan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, I think it's essential. To have options in terms of making money that don't have to do with selling drugs. Although, I mean, I can only speak for my area. I'm not from Dominica. I'm not from an area where it's hard to find a steady, normal work job necessarily. I mean, you can go to any fast food restaurant and probably wanting to hire somebody. But there's a difference in the quick money that you get when you're trying to sell drugs, and to differentiate that and make it clear that it's not worth the risks, I think has to be emphasized as well.
So you're thinking that it's a good idea to let young people see options beyond just what is quick in front of them in terms of
hugely important, but not all you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sheldon, what are your thoughts about that? About building industry around youth involvement, or should kids just be playing?
Well, usually you find kids or children, as you say, more involved in something that's beneficial to them, if you understand. So like, okay, you'll not just find somebody going to work for working sake. They work because they have needs that need to be fulfilled. So yeah.
And one of those needs, so the young people, I call them, some people say, don't call them kids, but they're little goats. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Do young people really have need for money?
Yeah.
To do what?
Okay. Some of them is wants, but majority's needs.
Such as, give me an example.
Well, there are sometimes their parents can't afford food for them. They have to go and do everything to eat a food or something. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, man.
And then the shoes. One of the guys was one guy was on the Active Cat the other day, and we went to get some water, and he didn't want the water to touch his shoes because he said they were $300 Nikes or something.
Yes. I remember that. I opened the pipe and he tell me I wet in his shoes. So I see this shoe. It was a brand new slippers, but the sole of it dirty. So I tell him, it better the shoe wet than it dirty.
Yeah.
All the shoe, all the white piece of it, have dirt on it. I say it better wet than it dirty.
Yeah.
It's already dirty.
Yeah, but I know that's probably his way to tell us his slippers were $300. But I mean, he's entitled to have his money.
Yeah,
I don't
man.
think anybody up for $300. But I don't know. I don't know if I got some $20 stickers like flip flops or how I behave with them. Maybe I probably wouldn't own it though. I don't own those. I probably don't have expensive shoes. But people may have their own rights. I mean, sometimes they want to do something with their funds. I mean, I see them around, and it's like
some of them basically have a sweet tooth.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And they want to go buy some more Chevron's. Then what Chevron's like?
Cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon rolls. Like Chevron is on the hustling them cinnamon rolls, man. He's like clearing out $45 in this pack. These are the kinds of things, I mean, some and it's amazing. I guess we may have lost Julian Paquette. I think I remember when we rode the ATVs the last time, and I said, "Listen, guys, if you guys want to ride the bikes, you have to come up with a business plan of how you're going to ride the bikes, and I don't have to keep paying for the gas,
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah,
And
man.
if something breaks down on the bike, I have to keep paying.
Yeah.
And then you guys created some. I guess you have to tell me more about it because I keep saying Sheldon is the boss. Go to Sheldon. So when I leave, it's gonna be Sheldon that's gonna be running things. So you're gonna have to come with the idea. But what I mean, we probably don't want to tell all our numbers here, but it seems that there are some plans, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
So the whole thing, what I would like you to do, Sheldon, is to get the young guys together and think about a sales team, right? So
Yeah.
somebody will say, okay, we have Acticats, we have a Polaris, we have an Acticat, we have a UTV and an ATV. You can come, we have helmets that you can use, you can ride the bike.
Yeah.
If you want to ride along our trail for a certain amount of time, there's what the cost is. If you're riding, if you're driving, or you're whatever, and then you will determine if somebody's taking one or more rounds, what the amount is. So you will have a sales, like a sales and marketing department of young people that just say, hey, come ride the bike. You have somebody that does a safety.
Yeah, man.
You
Yeah,
have a
man.
maintenance crew,
Yeah.
right? There's people that deal with business before people ride. There are people that deal with business during the time people ride.
Yeah, man.
And there are people that deal with business after people ride.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that they set the price to the point is like microeconomics, right? You set the price that if they want to make a 20% cut from recruiting somebody,
Yeah.
because if they don't recruit people, we won't get any business. So
Yeah,
let's
man,
say
yeah,
they got a 20% cut, 50% cut, whatever, they have to set the price. And then among that, after we pay for gas, we pay for this and that, they can get a 20% cut. That is good enough. Yeah.
We're still working in their favor because the price we're charging them, that's basically for gas. So even
Right.
after they get their cut, if something breaks down on the bike, that wouldn't be able to fix it.
Right, exactly. So therefore, then we have to revisit the price,
Yeah,
But
man.
I think these are the kinds of things we want to do. And when you say Julian that we have kind of something like that with the young people, even if we're not thinking of Peaceology because that we have a youth group like that, but
Yeah,
indeed,
man.
and in fact, we have so many kids showing up all the time playing cricket, running around. By the way, I don't know if these guys can ride that little gorilla cat anymore, man. I was riding the gorilla cat. I think this guy's turned my gorilla cat into a scooter.
Yeah,
So
man.
I don't mind we go to Do It Center and buy some Bose wheels and show them how to make a wheel.
Yeah, man. Make a nice little go-kart, man.
Make a nice little go-kart. They're gonna have to do that. But by the way, there's a go-kart in Marigot that we need to bring down too. And so Kelson Thomas, we need to bring that go-kart back down to Trafford. But we can build a go-kart too.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
And
man.
then we can not stop using our wheelbarrow like a go-kart because those kids are having too
Yeah.
much fun. I think they bent the front wheels or something. So we can have to. But that's what it's about, finding ways to enjoy low stress, high joy. But we need to really build industry. While we are playing, we need to really think about building industry. Julian is back with us. Paquette, thank you for joining us, China. So thank you for joining us back. Now we're going to segue into. I know that we have just less than 30 minutes really left in the whole show. By the time we want to leave a few minutes on board, but we're going to take a little pause. We're going to remind ourselves that we are live here on the big station Q95. You can reach us, of course, at call-in 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097. We have a WhatsApp call a number at 235-3095. You can also reach us in a cell number at 616-4257. Overseas calling line is 305-432-9624. Again, that's 305-432-9624. And we said that's overseas, but the WhatsApp could be overseas as well, because you can call us on WhatsApp at 767-235-3095. So, Lambi, why don't you to give us another surprise from Rasmo while we take catch our breath a little bit, and we want to remind people they can call in, and people visit us on Facebook and leave comments on Facebook. I want to come back. We're gonna have a little rap session here with our Chi-Town, the guy that showed gangsters how to be gangsters in Chicago. He's like, no, please don't say that. All right, we're gonna talk to Stefan when we come back. All right, let's hear what Rasmo has for us, and thank you so much for listening to Peaceology State. 30th.
I'm going to Africa. What I find out here, I will bring a gift for you. I will bring a gift for you. I will bring a talking rock. I will bring a teenage rock. I will bring a junior rock. I will bring a Starbucks rock. For you, for you, for you, for you, for you. I will bring a drunk for you. For you, for you, for you. I will bring a drunk for you.
So yes, I also want to thank, I want to give some shout outs to some folks that support Peaceology State, support the Peaceology effort. Actually, I had a note yesterday, Screws and I were over at Mero Beach, and I forgot the name of the brother that has the bar. He wrote it down for me, but I didn't bring the paper to the studio with me. But a young brother who owns the bar where Rocket and some different musicians play on Sunday at Mirror Beach. I don't know if you guys have ever gone down there. I found the last two, and maybe next Sunday I may try to make it. Well, hopefully I'll be in Grand Bay with Julian Packett and the other folks in Grand Bay on Sunday, this coming Sunday. But if not, if I can do, I don't know if I can do both. But or maybe I'll take a break from Mayro. But if you guys get a chance to go down to Mayro Beach on Sundays from about 2 o'clock or so, Rocket, and there's a gentleman that's a musician from Quebec who usually, when he comes, he helps to organize. I saw Nat was on the piano there, and met some other musicians. I was inclined to go up with the accordion and do some things, but sometimes I just like to listen. But came with the cowbell, and came with the washboard, and did little numbers with them. But it's really good, mellow. As we talk about low stress, high joy, it's very important for us to spend some time and support the art and support the building of ourselves from the inside. So I just want to do a shout out to the folks, all of the different businesses. Actually, I met Max down on the end. Max has a bar. He's has some he call them glowing balls on the end at the end of the Mirror Beach that are there, and there's some good food there. There's a gentleman that does hot dogs. The people do different things, and even later in the night, there were people enjoying the water there at Mirror Beach. So I just wanted to shout out to the folks there, and also a shout out to Screw Spa. This is the second consecutive Sunday that I went down with Screws. Screws and I are neighbors. Well, I don't know his government, his government, you probably know him by his stage name than his government name. So I wouldn't necessarily say his government name, but, he's over there in Screw Spa in Watton, good friend and neighbor. And we decide we're not just going to work hard and all week and not play at all, not to have some recreation. So we've gone. And actually, believe it or not, Screws is a real good singer, man. I actually maybe one day I'll ask Screws if he's all right. Played a clip of him singing a couple of his songs, and he only sings his original songs actually, and the guy is really good. I mean, he's not just eclectic and kind of genius with his ideas and his own dressing, but this guy has a beautiful voice. He writes some good songs. He's a real deep brother. It's amazing when I go around with Screws, the things that people think and say, and sometimes people want to make fun of people because they look different, but sometimes people just humble some more, and what they see as different is not necessarily bad, and it's not something to make fun of. But and it's amazing when you are someone like him, who people may look at you and have one impression, and if you speak with him, it's another depth. I really enjoy the fact that as friends, you can feel comfortable with somebody for who and how they are, and you can see a beautiful world with people, regardless of the fact that you may not completely align with all of their tastes. So I want to say a shout out to Screw Spa, and up the hill, Ernest, Fontaine, right there at the Escape and Apicine that has the spa. I mean, I think in the Watton Basin, the Roseau Valley Basin there, I spent a lot of time across the river, there with Tia Spa also, and over my, Henry George, that over Tiqueglo show, up there on the hill. And as I've mentioned before about Le Petit Paradis and Dane Shop and Wapo's Bar, and actually Sit and Sip, I think is the name that I saw. Nice bar over right next to Taz's place. You can get some good courteous service from those who run. It's actually a very beautiful sign, so I don't know who painted that sign, but it's nice to see communities, look good. Actually, one of the things that we are doing with Peaceology is, we do the Kud May, and one of the projects we have carded for us is to build an outside toilet, flushing toilet over at Dane's Bar. I go there in Dane, over there in Watton, and it's not a question of whether or not people can build their own things, but if we see something that we want to help build with community, I think that's a good effort. So we have entered conversation with Dane. Thanked him for allowing us to be able to work with you to do that and to design something that can be sustainable, to be able to, so patrons can have a bathroom, that they can use when they go out there in that popular place. And actually, a cousin of mine owns some partnership, Jacqueline and her son, daughter-in-law, are right on the hill. I'm not. Last night I meant to ask them if anybody knows the place in Watton that is between Le Petit Paradis, same side of the street, there's today, where the bar, DJ Shen, where the DJ and where we do the karaoke on Friday nights. Anybody that knows the name of that spot in Watton, call and give it a plug, because the place was packed. Been packed over the weekends. Sometimes wee hours in the morning. Great food, great music, great company. Like just a nice spot. So Watton has been a nice bubbling place, there in that city of the Roseau Valley, and if town or anywhere around. And on the weekend, any night almost. If you want to go out there and you have a late night, or sometime there's spots in Walton Waven that you can come visit with us there in the Rosa Valley and support local businesses. And the local businesses try to help our community, help our youth, and develop a nice place for us. So it's not just the Rosa Valley, anywhere. Any small mom and pop shop around Dominica, around the world, and big businesses, require support as well. But it's very important that as we talk about peace, as we talk about low stress, high joy, that we are very intentional about building industry around a more peaceful world. And I really want to give shout out to the small businesses, big differences, the small mom and pop shop, the little cabarets around the different parts of Dominica. And hopefully, when I visit Granby on the weekend, and as I continue to go there to do some follow up on our 3 decades of work, that I can also give some shout outs to some people in Granby, because I know that there's some businesses that have been there for a long time that have been very vibrant. I remember, Shirley's shop there by Block 44, that's, Shirley and Miss Bay. These folks were always so nice to me, and various other people. Just wanted to just take this kind of give this kind of shout out to those businesses, and even talking about bigger businesses. I mean, that I mentioned about Do It Center, Harris Paint, H Charles, those places, Max Roy, Maximum, those places that really give good customer service. We receive from Peaceology, and I see, witness, D-Threads and some of those businesses. So just continue to build our quality of life, build our economic reality, continue to help develop our youth, develop our communities, and think that the more we have is the more we have to share. So let's not be shy about being able to be prosperous in life, but with great resources come great responsibilities. So hopefully, as we get more, we're able to share more. But it's very important for us to have economic engine around peace, around low stress and high joy. So my man Stefan, the man that living under the guava tree in Trafalgar. So tell us about, we hear about Chicago, bro. Like, is Chicago all of what it's said to be? Like, what is your version? Tell us about your side of the street in Chicago, your perspective, your window that you look out. Right. Let the world hear.
Well, first of all, I'm not from the proper city of Chicago. I'm from what's called the Chicagoland area.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I'm from the northern suburbs, which are kind of notorious for being wealthy and well-to-do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm nowhere near where most of the violence takes place in Chicago, although we definitely are aware of it. And I'd say especially because of the music scene took off in Chicago in the early 2010s, we totally embrace it. All of that culture, that side of the city, even though we're nowhere near it.
You mean the jazz and the blues? And
no, not the jazz, the guns and the drugs, murders.
What did they sing about it? What did they say in those songs? What did they say?
Well, have you heard of like drill music?
I heard the name. Tell me about it.
It's a genre supposed to be started by this guy called Chief Keef from Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's a type of gangster rap where they talk about their life. That's their reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it started. They're just talking about their life.
Mm-hmm.
They get really in depth about it, and they mention names of people that have died on opposing sides of certain neighborhood wars, and they talk about drugs and getting money, and they're very descriptive. And that's the music.
That's the music.
Yeah.
So they talk about their whole life, or they just talk about that slice of life?
They talk about their whole life, but that's what they're into. That's what they're doing.
They talk about arithmetic and mathematics and
no, because they're not doing arithmetic and mathematics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell it like it is.
They don't care.
So well, I actually have met Chief Keef, over in Wood, and there are a bunch of those guys that with Little Dirk and those over there. Because I
Right.
work at the LSDs, the Lord Stone's Disciples in Chicago.
Okay.
And I've met, actually, I still work with some family members of some of those notorious musicians.
Mhm.
And actually, I am often embarrassed when I bring my students out to the south and west side of Chicago,
Why?
and somebody said that they are XYZ's uncle, and I say, "Who's XYZ?" They're like, "You don't know who XYZ is." They're like, because they listen to the music, and a lot of the time, I mean, just straight up, they're white suburban kids. I mean, the white suburban kids seem to have the biggest
Love it.
gangster. They seem to have the biggest. When I want to hear about like kind of underground rap, I ask my white suburban kids to play. They play. I can take on a limo bus to go to Chicago, and I just say, "Guys, play your music. What you listen to." And I was like, "This is a Christian university, right?" And this quiet looking suburban kids play some kind of stuff, and I was like, "Are you just like making this up because you think is what I listen to?" Like, nope. That's
No, this is.
so what is so appealing about that?
It's not inherently appealing. I'm sure if it was
Okay.
delivered to us in a different way, in a scarier way or a more serious way, we wouldn't like it. I mean, it's murder and violence, right? A lot of it, but like, I mean, you can go back to the 80s probably. NWA, they were cool. Like, they're rebellious. They don't care about what anyone says. They're getting money. They're getting girls, and that's about it. So when you're a young kid, I mean, like, that's kind of all you need.
So why would a suburban kid in a wealthy community be so? And I'm not just talking about passing, listening to some of them. Like that's like almost most of what
They like study it almost.
Right. Like so,
Right.
what is the draw?
What is the draw?
Yeah.
It makes you feel tougher. It's probably part of it. You're listening. I don't know. You listen to it, and you're into it.
Like, Sheldon, you listen to what do you guys call it? Gangster rap? What is it?
Just call it rap.
Rap.
But that's like most of what it is nowadays. It's that type of stuff. Trap.
Sheldon,
Trap is what you call it.
You listen to music as well?
Yeah, man. I listen to Young Dolph and actually from that side of town.
Yeah, we look good. I don't know if we got you on the mic, but the Young Golf, you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
I listen to Young Dolph. I used to listen to Lil Duke and these other guys. I'm not sure if they're from Chicago, but yeah.
You know Young Dolph too?
Yeah, he's from Memphis.
Okay. So is he like one of those? He sings about his life and
trapping, getting money. Yeah.
So how you think that influences the reality and the experiences of violence in the city? You think that is just the artist's way of expressing the reality that is there, or you think some of that feeds back into perpetuating some of that as well?
Well, for this, I'm kind of just gonna repeat what I've heard from people that actually live in those types of scenarios. But on one hand, it's inspirational in neighborhoods where, like, basically you're taught to believe that you can't go anywhere and you can't succeed in anything. Recently the music industry has been like a new outlet, supposedly. But then at the same time, like, this new outlet and what you're looking up to is still what's going on in the community. So, like, you could look up to somebody that's blowing up and want to do the same thing, and the end goal is maybe to get rich and get out of it. But first you got to become a tough guy and do whatever. That's what I've heard people say.
Yeah, okay.
Again, that's not. I don't actually know.
No, you can. Well, hey, you can only talk about what you can talk about. Right. You're going to talk about your experiences unless you want to be somebody else. So thanks for sharing that with us. So what brings you to Peaceful Nature Isle? How did Dominica get blessed to be here with your presence? How did you get blessed to be here with Dominica's presence?
Well,
how did you guys meet each other?
Actually, my first experience with the island was in high school. I did a program where I learned how to sail, and I lived on a boat with like a bunch of other people for 3 weeks, and we were anchored outside of Dominica. We didn't visit the island, but me and a friend swam off at night and just swam to the beach, and because there was a bunch of music.
Were you supposed to do that?
No. But there was a bunch of music and parties, and we got to the beach, and we were a little awkward and scared at first, but then instantly they were like, what the hell? Did you guys just swim from that boat? And they brought us in, gave us food, gave us drinks, and apparently the host of the party was one of the ministers of Dominica. So that was my first experience with Dominica.
So you just showed the minister's party by swimming ashore.
Right. So that's a good memory.
Okay.
So I remembered that, and then I just in the past few years, as I wanted to travel, I heard of it as being like one of the last untouched, maybe only untouched islands in the Caribbean, quote unquote, the nature islands. So that's another reason I came. And honestly, my initial place in the Caribbean that I wanted to go was St. Lucia, and it just by happenstance happened to be connected by ferry to Dominica. So that's why this is my.
You just decided to jump on the ferry and come on down there,
Right,
and see what's up. So, what did you learn about Dominica from St. Lucia? Did you tell anybody you're going to go to Dominica? Or?
Yeah, all they told me is you guys speak more Creole and you guys got more bouillon music. They didn't even tell me that you guys like made that type of music. That's Dominican music. They just said you listen to it more.
I wonder who they would tell you better. But it's interesting that I think and Lambi, is that true? If you were to ask Dominicans and St. Lucians who spoke more Creole, I think most Dominicans and St. Lucians speak more Creole, right? So I don't know how, because the young kids on the street, like you probably hardly hear Sheldon and this guy speak Creole, maybe unless they say something bad to somebody else or something. But in St. Lucia, some students would be walking to school and speaking Creole. I'm really impressed with that. I think that's really great.
Really?
Yeah, young kids were speaking Creole, like unapologetic. Just like here we say it as some words, and it's amazing how much some of it losing the language. So actually, in my experience, St. Lucians actually speak more Creole than we do, and actually I like that a lot. And that sometimes they speak it among with the youth, whatever. But that's my impression of them. So if they think we speak more Creole, we'll take that too, because we want to maintain our Creole culture. But we some of us think that St. Lucians speak more of it. Yeah. So what has been the experience like for you here in Dominica?
It's been amazing. I came here, and especially coming from America, I was expecting most of the islands or any Caribbean island to be more or less similar. And especially St. Lucia and Dominica, which are their own countries. I thought it was going to be pretty similar, but Dominica is totally different, very special. I mean, just simply the population size makes it so that everything is so close-knit, and the communities, I mean, to be able to drive 15 minutes from the capital city, and already each village is these tiny little scattered towns. It wasn't like that in St. Lucia. So I've really enjoyed that. It made it really easy to come to a place like I was originally in Wattenwaven, staying at Petit Paradis, and meet the people of the village and get involved in the community.
How did you end up at Petit Paradis?
It was the cheapest lodging option online in the
How
whole
much was
country.
It? How much was it?
$23 US a night.
For what? A king size bed?
It was like it did have a bed and a hammock. I didn't even know I was gonna have a bed. I thought it was gonna be hammocks.
Okay.
But
you did get a bed option?
Yeah, I got a bed, and it was super nice. It was super nice, especially after being in my tent in St. Lucia for 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I got super spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So Algiers, I guess you have proven it empirically. They're the cheapest price, and
it's a great setup.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
They're good people as well. Wow. And what were you doing on Wapo's Bar, bro?
At Wapo's Bar, I was just having fun with the people. I don't know if you know Jarvis, but
that's
Jarvis,
one of my cousins. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Jarvis was like, out of the young dudes, he was probably the main guy that like messed with me and hung out with me, introduced
Right.
me to people. So I was just at Wapo's bar having fun,
Mm.
and that was about it.
Yeah, and I ended up there, and we ended up talking, and you ended up at Peaceology. So now we talk about Peaceology. Peaceology was actually born in Dominica, born in Rosa Valley, born in Trafalgar, born under the Trafalgar Falls. The idea of the science and practice of low stress and high joy, the idea that if we are to live life to our fullest potential, we need to embrace as soon as possible a lifestyle characterized by low stress and high joy, because stress sucks out the life out of us, the best out of it.
Mhm.
Joy gives us the most that we can have even when we have the least. So when you combine the interactive effect of low stress and high joy, we can realize optimum potentials in our lives. That's the kind of geek, semi-geek definition of Peaceology. Seeing that Peaceology was born in Dominica, born in Trafalgar, the experience that you have, does that make sense? So the idea of Peaceology fits the nature isle?
Totally.
Mm.
100%. I just, well, from my perspective, coming from America, something that we're largely missing is like a connection to the earth,
Mm.
to nature,
Mhm.
to actual life.
Mm.
Everything is everything is buildings and just artificial.
Mhm.
You don't know where your food's coming from. You don't know where your clothes are made. You don't know. There's no little shop where you know the woman that's selling you your groceries. Like you don't find
That's
that.
right,
There's
right.
no little local businesses. So coming to a place where communities, because of the size, are forced to be close knit.
Mm.
There's a lot of nature everywhere.
Mhm.
I think that encourages a life of peace and a life of
Mm.
joy
Mm.
greatly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. You, when we were driving by maybe yesterday, you had made a metaphor of Dominica and St. Lucia. You drew a parallel, and you said something to do with the pitons. What did you
Yeah.
say?
I mean, in terms of the landscape and beauty, what was St. Lucia is like famous for their two peaks, the Piton,
Mhm.
and Dominica is if St. Lucia was covered the entire island in the peaks, like just
Okay.
the whole island.
All right.
So this island is truly special. I think that's also what has allowed it to be untouched, because the land is so difficult to work with.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So, just for so long, people have not wanted to deal with it. I remember hearing a story about like Columbus coming over here and just someone asked him to describe it, and he crumbled up a piece of paper and threw it at them. And I think that has stayed until now. I think people, I think I saw somewhere BBC listed Dominica as the #1 place to visit in 2026. So I think it's probably going to start to pick up. But yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, believe it or not, we've come to the end of the road. We are here already. We just have 3 more minutes. Did anybody show us any love on Facebook? No, we probably didn't see. Maybe they're there. People say not because you didn't see us say something doesn't mean we're not enjoying the show. Julian Paquette, are you still with us or you gone?
No, Peter, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm listening.
Good. What are your thoughts about what Stefan has told us about Chicago? What he has said about Dominica? What are your thoughts?
So I just listening to how he compares, how life was for him in Chicago and the whole rap thing and how they used to, it was just what was there and they listened and they got influenced by it. And he's to St. Lucia in Tint and, two people and coming to see so many people. It's just interesting. I wish his story could be shared with other young people so they really get to embrace their country. Because what you find is that we find reasons for us to depart Dominica as young people because we say we're going to look for greener pastures. And Dominica is the green pasture. We just have to begin to develop the idea of how do we use our blue and green, our sea, our oceans, our rivers and our mountains, and turn it into some economic entity by maybe through tourism development, community tourism projects, things of that nature. How can we even get our young people to be tourism ambassadors? And I'm looking at it on a village level. I'm looking at what he's saying and what he enjoys about this country. And the fact that I'm also involved in tourism, I work with Jungle Bay, and stating that he read that, Dominica is a top place to visit. And that is true. And that it's picking up. What does that mean for our young people? What does that mean for our youth groups? How do they conceptualize that and turn it into economic initiatives?
Yeah, well, Julian,
things into my mind, man. I think I'm going crazy right now.
Should I bring him to Granby with me on Sunday? Should he come with me on Sunday? You want to go Granby with me on Sunday?
What do you mean? Bring him up, man. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, all right. So Stefan should be. Stefan, do you want to come back? Well, the 20th. I don't know where you'll be on the 20th of April, but if I'll be our next show in the station is the 20th of April, and April 6th, which is pretty soon, we have our show at the next radio station. So it'd be nice for you. You can still hang out with us, and you get to hang out with Cool Sheldon. You know what I mean? And corny me. So Julian, thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, if God's willing, we're gonna. Stefan and I come up if we want to. Actually, maybe some guys from Trafalgar want to come up. We can take the Ford Ranger for a run. But a few of us might come up to Grand Bay, come up and spend some young people from Peaceology Acres. Huh?
Young cricketers.
Young cricketers. With some young cricketers on the playing field. Right there. We can play some cricket game. We probably have an impromptu. You guys can play against the Gambia guys and get your tails whooped.
That's easy to happen. That's easy to happen.
Why, easy to beat them or easy to have the game? Maybe both. All right. Well, we've come to the end of the road. We don't want to overstay our welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on Peaceology State, the show we have here once a month, and we're here on the 30th day of March of the year 2026, talking about the 30th anniversary of the Granby Area Neighborhood Study. Spend time with Julian Packett online with us, and in studio here with us, Stefan, the man from Chi-Town, kind of suburbish, but the guy that knows more about rap than you can ever imagine. All right, folks. Lambi, thank you for being on the keyboard. Thank you here. Thanks for joining us, Julian and Sheldon, as always. Thanks for being the right hand.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah,
all right.
Bye-bye.
Night. Right.
Good night.
Bye-bye. All right. Lambi, take us. Yes. Thank you again for joining the Peaceology State.
No longer will I be undercover. And every time I see your face, I feel like falling space. Oh yeah, it's like a fantasy. Smile, be okay, you're alone. This